All right, we're going with another episode here. I'm excited about this. This is going to be really cool. I've had the NRA on. I've had Jason We Met on. I have finally got around to getting the NSSF on. Not for lack of trying and not for lack of trying to pair up with this guy, but I have Larry Keane, the one and only Senior VP of Government Affairs over there. Finally, we get some input from the NSSF. What's going on, Larry?
We're drinking from a fire hydrant lately, just like everybody else. It's been a pretty unusual situation, to say the least.
It's a wild ride, Larry. And first, let's bring this together here. So everybody, is just clamoring. It's crazy out there. It's a scramble. The FFLs are going bananas. It's an unprecedented situation. Let's start there, right? So everybody, this
Absolutely.
is crazy. So give me some insight into what you're seeing. And you mentioned drinking from a fire hose. Now, I try to educate everybody listening. You're from the Gov't side. So I try to explain to people, you're not the marketing wing. You're on the government affairs side. So you're one of the good guys fighting the battles to keep the doors open at a lot of these places. Am I right? Tell me some of the things you're dealing with.
Oh, absolutely. It was NSSF that led the effort in speaking to the administration and Homeland Security that resulted in the guidance that came out on Saturday from Homeland Security, saying that manufacturers, distributors, retailers, and rangers were critical and essential and could stay open. And we've seen the results of that, which were, again, led by the NSSF, talking and working this issue for over a week, more than a week. And now you see the governor of New Jersey backing off. You see this sheriff in Los Angeles flip-flopping yet again, now following the guidance and is going to allow gun stores to remain open. So it's having the effect that we knew it would. So we're really proud of that. And now we're struggling with making sure the lights can stay on and the doors open at some of the local levels, like in North Carolina. We've confronted that. We worked very hard to get the Texas AG to put out his guidance to stop that. We've got one county in Indiana where they're disobeying state law that preempts local control over the sale of firearms. So we're working that. We're working Maine. It's a little bit of whack-a-mole, but we're having a lot of success, and it's been entertaining to watch the reaction of every town. Moms Demand Action and the Brady Center, in response to the decision by Homeland Security and the Trump administration. And it really puts the lie to these organizations and their claim that they respect and support the Second Amendment. They only want common sense gun reforms, and what they really don't want is the sale of firearms, because why would they complain about law-abiding Americans exercising a constitutional right in a situation like this, acquiring firearms from a licensed retailer after a background check, which of course they claim is so critical, and that's all they want is just background checks. And so it really puts the lie to what these organizations really want, and that's to destroy the Second Amendment.
No, Larry, you're spot on. Now, before we get to COVID and everything going on, there's a lot of battles being fought that people don't see. And I always try to give you guys, whether it's Jason or the guys from SEI, everybody, the opportunity. Educate some of the people out there on what you're doing that they don't see. You brought up a few points, some of the battles, some of the legal stuff, and what's really involved in that process and how you're scrambling. Because I try to be as fair. I'm always critical of the marketing side. Yeah. But give some of the folks some education on what they don't see.
So just in the past 24 hours, we've spoken to several state attorney generals. We're talking to governors' offices. We're talking to the Department of Justice. We're talking to ATF. Things like, for example, just before I came on the call, working an issue. What if somebody's got an expired driver's license that expired during the crisis? They can't get it renewed because DMV is not renewing or issuing licenses. Is that still valid for a dealer to accept as a current valid form of government-issued ID? Where some jurisdictions will not allow people in the store, but they'll allow curbside or sidewalk transactions. Okay, so ATF, can a dealer do that? Is that still considered to be the premises covered by the license? Because you can only do transactions inside the premises covered by the license. So we're working that issue to try to make sure that dealers can do that and stay in business. We're, dealing with counties that are restricting things, trying to work those levels, speaking to state attorneys general to make sure that they're aware of what's going on and get them to weigh in with advisory opinions, or working with state legislators to some states, private parties can't request an advisory opinion from an attorney general. It has to come from a state legislator. So, for example, we did that in Texas. We arranged for that legislator to ask Attorney General Paxton to put that out, which he did. And so, many things, working relationships, speaking to people, educating them, trying to influence policy outcomes. So, this is the stuff that's going on behind the scenes that you don't see. But the result is, for example, what happened on Saturday when that guidance came out, we had been working and educating Homeland Security as to why, we need to stay in business, why it's important, why it's critical. And they agreed with us. Of course, that doesn't sit well with the Bloombergs and the Bradys and such, but, we're winning. So, and they're not.
For starters, I want to thank you for that work. And I think, a lot of people would say, John, what the fuck are you doing thanking? And I want to thank you, though, for that work. People need to realize a couple things. There are there's work behind the scenes that people don't see. And I was fair with Jason. We met, even, we're friends, Jason and I, and I said, you got to educate the people on what you're doing out there that people don't see, because that's always the unseen work. And sometimes it gets passed over or taken for granted or stepped over, so to speak, by, the general talking heads and the people out there that don't understand where your man hours go. And that absorbs a ton of man hours. There's not enough hours in the day, right? So,
God, no.
Yeah. So I try to be fair and give everybody their insight into this. Now, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a thankless task, and it goes without saying that fighting the good fight on the legal side is something that people do need to understand out there. So, to people that think like I'm just gonna kind of be a jerk and come at people, it's not about that. My contention on a lot of fronts is first to understand this is a wake up call to not just you guys as an organization, to us, to FFLs, to gun owners, in so many respects. When these numbers come out of NICS checks, Larry, it's going to be off the charts. It's going to be numbers we've never seen.
It'll be. Among other things we've been doing is talking to NICS as well about what's going on. And, one of the issues is the delays. What's the backlog? Why, in some states anyway, NICS telling dealers that the Brady transfer date is like mid-April. It's well past 3 business days when the state offices are open, things like that. It will, but the number will be off. ATF called us very early on, and they described it as astonishing, startling, 3 times what they normally see. And that was confirmed again in the conversation the end of last week with NICS. It's maybe come down a little bit to twice normal versus 3 times, but they described it as being well beyond what they saw after Sandy Hook. And so there's no doubt that March will be the single highest month by a long shot than any other month in the history. They said the last 2 weeks have been top 10 days.
Yeah,
all time.
I predict 6 million. That's my prediction, somewhere between 5 and 6.
I wouldn't bat an eyelash if that were the number.
That's what I predicted. It was 2 million and change a year ago. I'm going to say, Larry, conservative. Now, my issue is, and the reason, I kind of raised some angst with Mark and got on his case is because this is a golden opportunity. And it's an opportunity we can't see pass us by, both as an organization, as a culture, as a group, to kind of unite the clans and come together. Now, some companies are being proactive. I see, Mark hustling and some of you guys, putting it together and starting to figure it out and starting to weed through it. And I give you credit for that. I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I do. I'm not saying it to fluff you on air, but it's and it's a thankless task. Now, with that being said, I look at things, like I said to Mark, like the marketing side of things and content and stuff that's being put out there. And it's a battle of wills. And I always say, I said to Mark, I'm like, there's got to be a 1-800 number up there. There's got to be, these FFLs need resources. They're calling me trying to figure out where to find ammo, what's going on, and I said to somebody once, I said, the NSSF, the NRA, whatever the organization is, SCI, like I was at SCI and I was standing there and I was with Ben, not with Laird. I said, you guys have Donald Trump Jr. speaking here. You have all these great speakers. Why aren't you guys streaming this stuff or putting content out there or putting stuff out there to inform people what you're doing? And, I look at the marketing departments and I look right at them and I said, it's a failure. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I said to Mark, I said, why don't they have a hotline for the FFLs to call in to get paired up, to get resources, to get help? Because a lot of them are looking around saying, what do I do? What's the recourse? Even if it's just to talk to someone. And I'm like, I was on Mark's case. I said, these people are sitting at home. What the hell are they doing? So, is that something you're exploring now? Is that something you're looking into?
Well, we are trying to provide, certainly pushing information out to the retailers. I mean, constantly. We just put out several alerts today, Tennessee, among them, making sure they're aware of what's going on. We just did a survey of retailers to try to find out, several questions, including what's your inventory level? Do you have enough 4473s? That's another issue we've been working ATF on. What do they do? Are you guys going to be able to supply forms? Trying to get a handle on what. I had a conversation with the CEO of a major manufacturer today. I won't say his name, but about inventory levels. Are they seeing issues in their supply chain? What are their concerns? Obviously among the concerns all the manufacturers have is, what do you do if you get corona, someone comes to work and they spread corona in the factory? You're going to shut down. That's a big deal. So companies are starting to some have been already taking temperatures on people on the way in and trying to make sure. So far, the manufacturers are, pushing out products so far. They haven't seen problems on the supply chain side, getting raw material, parts, and components so they can create finished products and ship them. We are starting to see, inventory levels decline at the retail level. I mean, many people are cleaned out, obviously smashed with the surge. Right. So, and working with the distributors to find out what their inventory levels are, but no one could have predicted or anticipated this kind of crazy surge, or how, it's always the challenge, right? If you knew how long a surge is going to last, we'd be having this conversation from my yacht.
Yeah, Larry, totally. And I agree with you 100%.
And trying to get information. I mean, if dealers were to call us and say, where can I get ammo? I wouldn't know what to tell them because, it's flying out the door. If you're a retailer and you have an established relationship with the manufacturer or with the distributor, you're going to get your order filled before the guy who they've never talked to before calls and says, can you ship me, this, that, or the other thing. That's just the reality of business. Yeah. But we wouldn't, if we spent our time trying to corral that information, I'm not sure how we would quite be able to do that. That would deflect or take away from our time just trying to make sure that we can keep people can keep the lights on and operating. So it's a very, very challenging environment for everybody. We don't obviously know how long this is going to last. All the ammunition manufacturers are telling me that they are shipping product like mad. I mean, I had another CEO of a large ammunition manufacturer tell me the other day that, and I'm sure he's exceeded it by now. It was the largest shipping day they've ever had in the history of the company, and it's been around for quite a while. It's very difficult. And you get into some antitrust issues as well. If we start trying to orchestrate where product gets delivered and who gets it, and that becomes, the market sort of has to work. We really can't, as a trade association, sort of, decide where the product goes and who gets it, right? So there are some issues there that we have to be mindful of, but we are trying to service our members as much as possible. And we get a lot of calls from companies, dealers who aren't members, expecting us to drop everything we're doing and help them. And we are as the best we can, but we always say this is why you're supposed to be a member. We're supposed to serve our members. You've been freeloading. Why don't you sign up now? So hopefully that will happen.
And that's a great
that's
point.
your point about we all got to come together. We all got to be part of the team.
And that's a great point. And part of it, I guess what I'm getting at is the hard work that you're doing behind the scenes needs to come to fruition. And I know a lot of the older generation scoff sometimes at marketing and at streaming and at putting these types of content out there. But I think the NSSF should be leading the charge and should have a streaming channel that streams right into these gun shops, because all of them have a TV. All of them have that resource. And to my question about having a number to call, I have friends in New Jersey that were like, can I stay open? Am I going to get arrested? What's going to happen? I think people are just looking for answers. And I think and I just think,
understandable.
I think information just travels faster today, Larry, where these people need to consume the data, the information. And I had this conversation at high levels with the NRA and with the SCI. I said, you guys are putting stuff out too slow. There needs to be more data brought forth so people can kind of process it. Like, what are we supposed to do? Can we open? Can we not open? Where's our protection begin and end? And I think it's just understanding that. And, a lot of them, yes, this is a great time for them to join the industry, trade associations, the different branches, and they should do that. I'm a big advocate of that. The reality is the media needs to start to meet what's going on behind the scenes so that you have that perfect storm of data being fed back, essentially like a news channel.
Yeah, well, we're pushing out as fast as we can. Our state-by-state chart, for example, we've updated that. I mean, sometimes 4 or 5 times in a day, and put it up on our website and pushed it out. We're doing alerts, as quickly as we can to the states where there's been a development, pushing it out on social media. But, I completely agree. I mean, media and news has to travel at the speed of light, and tomorrow is too late. As you know, the news cycles, they don't last 24 hours. They last about 24 minutes. And so we are trying to push information out as quick as we can to educate people, to make them. We don't always have the answer. I mean, we're getting questions. Well, can I, some of these orders from the governors are vague and unclear. And we're trying to get, that's why we went back to Connecticut. That's why we went to Maryland. That's why we've, been pushing the governors to clarify or on the front end, make sure it's included in the order in the first place. We were responsible for why NSSF is responsible for why that language is included in Governor Pritz's order. Who would have ever thought Governor Pritz or an anti-gun governor from Illinois would put that in his order? That was a direct result. You want to know what goes on behind the scenes? That was NSSF that caused that to happen.
And no, that's important. And the only point I bring up and I brought to Mark is I said, getting away today and in these environments right now with a press release every 2 or 3 days, it's not enough. It's not enough. Imagine if that was the cycle at Fox News. You'd be like, what the fuck is going on? So, it's a learning curve, right? So, I said it to Mark.
Yeah, we all learn from Mark's experience. Yeah.
I said it to Mark and I'll say it to you on air. When things get somewhat back to normal, I'm going in that media department with a flamethrower. I'm going in there with a flamethrower, and in a good way, and I'm educating them and saying, look, guys, we need to start to get into spaces that we need to get information out to our people as fast as humanly possible, and are we doing the best that we can to do that? And are we educating them as fast as we can? And that's a great tool to use, as you know, to sign people up and to get people involved. Well, you want to be a part of the NSSF? You can have access to our streaming. You can have access to this. You can have access to a portal that gives you, resources and gives you, call-ins and things. And it's a different way of thinking, and it's using media to monetize what you're doing on the other side. And I just think that sometimes is a huge failure between the NRA and NSSF. I look out at the space a lot of times and I'm hypercritical because I see missed opportunity in the way things are done. And I say, this is a great time right now to be launching a NSSF podcast, to be launching an NSSF streaming network that people can pump right into their online or through YouTube, start to put out daily videos, and start to educate people. Hey, if you're in New Jersey, hey, if you're here, what FFL wouldn't watch that? And that would grow your market share tremendously.
But all good points. I wouldn't disagree with any of them.
So, I look at it and I'm critical, but I'm critical with answers, with solutions. And that's why I believe in creating programs that make sense and creating things content that makes sense. But because I've been getting calls up the wazoo about just that point, can I stay open? Can I do this? And I know the NSSF is one of those organizations that tries to cater to anything, but anything shooting. But I haven't seen even on YouTube one video that explains almost any of this stuff, what's going on, anything. And I don't know one gun shop that pumps it in. So, I'm like, if I'm whoever the detachment is that does this media stuff, I'd be like, we need to be doing this, and we need to be doing this now. And we need a podcast that streams constant information to people and be reporting out information, even if it's just reading the press releases that come off and having guests on. It shouldn't be coming from the outside. It should be a message coming from the inside. And that's how you control the entity. And that's how you get your arms around it. Because, if I see another video about how wildlife is thriving during this, I think I'm going to lose my freaking mind. I think now's the time to be pumping out, are you in the state of New Jersey? How can we help you? Here's resources for you available now. I don't need a handgun fundamental lesson on YouTube right now. But again, it comes down to resources, right? So it comes down to doing a deep dive analysis as to what you are as an entity, where you want to go, and how you want to be. And now's when you can prove your worth more to anybody. Because if I knew some of the things you were doing behind the scenes that you just brought up, Larry, and I saw that conveyed, whether it's through a podcast like this or through a YouTube video, I'd feel bad for chastising you. I'd be like, they're doing good work. They're doing this and this and this. And it's kind of like a daily brief, but a press release that's read out loud.
Right. I mean, it's like everything, it becomes a resource issue. That's why we need, every single FFL in the country should belong to their trade association. Then we'd have a lot more resources, and we can be doing more of the stuff that you're talking about in real time. It takes resources, which is why we need all of the dealers in the country to belong to our trade association. We're the ones helping to keep their lights on and keep them open for business during this crisis. And, the numbers we're hearing about what the business that FFLs are doing across the country, that, they're doing, in a week what they do in a year in terms of sales from some of what we've heard. Yeah. And it's a really good opportunity for the smaller guys because they can stay open when the big boxes with the restrictions that are being put in place to stay open. It doesn't make economic sense for them to stay open, whereas a smaller retailer, they can still operate and stay profitable.
No, absolutely. And, I agree with you on a lot of these points. We see eye to eye. It's going to be a matter of bringing the community together, getting the right messaging out there. And the message isn't going to be, why you should buy a Glock 19. The message has to be, here's who we are, here's what we're doing, here's what we've done, here's what we're trying to create. And if you guys get involved, we can add more to this. Do you like this? At the end of the day, it's all about information. And we're marching, I go to CES, I go to all these different trade shows. I've been to, I've been in this business long enough. The biggest mistake we've made as an organization, as a gun owners, as 2A advocates, is we've relied too heavily on photos and press releases. There's not enough guys out there with audio, and there's not enough guys doing video, and there's not enough people actually explaining what the climate currently is, because the only way to unite the clans, so to speak, that's how I call it, or bring everybody together, is you have to have a conversation, you have to have education, and you can't have that behind closed doors. You can't have that in ivory towers. You have to open it up, and you have to create the dialogue, and then you have to shape the narrative. And the only way to do that is not going to be with an Instagram post. It's not going to be with something that you're going to allow everybody to interpret 8 ways from Sunday and sideways. And that's the way a piece of paper usually goes, and that's the way sometimes it goes with social media posts. Oh, they're holding the gun wrong. They're not a real hunter. They're not this, not that. It gets away from the conversation. The conversation right now needs to be about getting the FFLs open, getting them what they need, getting them the resources that they need, so making sure that they are in contact with the suppliers to help them out, as you brought up, and making sure we're pumping out that narrative and people understand what you're doing behind the scenes. And I think that's where it falls flat. That's why I look at a lot of these media departments, whether it's in the NRA or NSSF, and I'm like, and I'm critical, Larry. I say it. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? What are you doing? You sitting home walking the dog? What's going on? Somebody should be in front of a camera pumping out, hey, if have you checked this out? Have you looked at this resource? Hey guys, now's the time to be doing that. You have a captive audience. You have people sitting at home looking for answers, and they're calling around looking for answers. You don't want them saying, what are we doing paying for this organization? You want them saying, this is why I pay Larry. You know what I mean? You want that. And that's what, and I believe in that. And I agree with you, but you have to get the information out there, and it has to be pumped out there. You guys have done a much, much better job than what the NRA's done on the media side. I haven't seen one thing on the NRA side. If I was the NRA, I'd be giving free memberships. I'd be giving free RSO courses online. I'd be getting people in my website till the fucking thing crashed, Larry. And that's what they should be doing. They should be getting as much out there as they can. Now, I can't criticize them to you. You're a different entity. But the NSSF can be, definitely taking a long, long look at their media practices post this. And I think they should gravitate more towards being a little bit more of a news entity, of putting the news out there of what's going on, because this isn't going to die slowly. This is going to continue, I think. I think we're going to see a run for a little while now, probably at least through the election and through the end of the year.
I would agree. I think we're going to see, is this, as they say, the curve flattens, and I think it's going to lead right into the election. I will say I think this is a paradigm shift on the issue. I mean, I think you have all these first-time gun buyers. I think it's very important that everybody, NRA, us, reach out to these first-time gun buyers, dealers, and bring them into the fold, educate them. You have all these people who are fence sitters that went out and bought a gun, and now they get it. We've heard many, many stories from retailers, particularly in California, where people walked in and were like, what do you mean I got to wait 10 days? That's absurd. Like, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I passed the background check. I need the gun now, not in 10 days. And it's like, well, get involved. Become a gun voter. And you have all these fence sitters that are coming our way. That's why it's a paradigm shift. And that's why you see the gun control groups freaking out, lighting their hair on fire, because they know they just lost millions of people on the issue.
Well, I think what's going to happen is, I think the kind of fringe 2A people that are buying now, and I've had some of them literally come to my door to ask questions. I think that what you're going to see is a shift where they're going to have to acknowledge the Second Amendment the same way we acknowledge Roe v. Wade and the same way we respect the law that's in place. They're going to have to start to respect the laws, and they're going to have to respect that this is what it is. And you're not going to continue to pull the bullshit where you're going to, we're going to take a piece away here and we're going to change this. It's like, it's like what's her face up in Massachusetts with her list, and you can't have a gun on the list. Like this list shit, Larry. It's got to stop. It's got to stop because they're allowing these attorney generals to act like they have total authority to do whatever they want. And I was sick of it, and that's why I left Massachusetts. This list stuff is insane. We're going to make a list. Well, just because you made a list as an attorney general and nobody signed off on it but you, that doesn't make it legal. And I want to see somebody start to fight that.
Painfully aware. We tried to fight that as best we could in Massachusetts. Then you want to hear some behind the scenes? We had Democrat legislators in Massachusetts complaining about what headline Healy did with her list, saying she didn't have any right to do that. She overstepped her authority. Well, pass a bill and strip the authority. Stop this. Oh no, we're not going to do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to get crosswise with her. It's like, you cowards.
Well, in my theory on the list thing, and I know Charlie Baker. Okay, I coached his kids in football. I know the guy. Here's my thing with the list. I would say if she's going to act like Napoleon, then when she goes, does the list go?
Yeah. You could have another attorney general come in and say, that's the problem, right? You could have another attorney general come in and say, I interpret this differently than she did, and I think more things should be on the list, or her list was wrong, or
I think
it's not law. It's just a tin pot dictatorship. It's whatever she decides because she chooses to think that way. It's not the law. I think exceeded her authority. but it's been litigated, and the courts didn't rule the way we would have liked. There's still a lawsuit going in state court challenging whether she complied with the Massachusetts Administrative Procedures Act in promulgating this list, which is a regulation, which she tried to claim it wasn't. She lost that argument in federal court, so we'll see what happens there. But people gotta, at the end of the day, people gotta get registered to vote, and they gotta show up on election day. Look what happened in Virginia. People didn't show up to vote.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. After they got, these people got elected, and they said, "We're going for it. We're going to strip you of your rights." That's when people woke up. That's when you had the rally. The pendulum swing stopped at the rally. That's when it started going back our way. And this whole situation now is accelerating that pendulum swing in our way, in our direction.
And
people got to pay attention and participate in democracy. Otherwise, you get rolled.
And I've said this, Larry, I think what has to happen is in each of these states, and this might help the NSSF out, is we have to push some of these governing bodies. We have to have a conversation. That's what it comes back to. And we have to say, listen, Charlie, whoever, you can't just arbitrarily be making these laws that you don't even know the laws that you're making, because I genuinely believe that they don't, and I know you agree with me. You have to sit down with a panel. If you value these business owners and you value these voters, and Charlie's from the North Shore, he's as Republican as they come. I know that. You have to have a conversation where you say, we're going to put a panel together of FFL owners, and we'll have one of our guys at the table with you, but we have to educate you on some of these things. And if you do A, B happens. If you do B, C happens. Because I genuinely don't think they understand it. Because look at California. It's a mess. You buy an AR-15, you need 14 buttons and 10 screws. They don't understand when they pass these laws, there's either going to be a workaround developed or you're going to create more of a logjam. But one thing politicians have never understood, and if Beto did, he never would have said what he said, you're never going to get a local law enforcement or federal law enforcement to kick in law-abiding citizens' doors and take their guns away. It's never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
And if they attempt to do it, it's not going to go quietly. It's not going to happen.
And that's why they'll never do it. They know that.
Mm-hmm. So what has to happen is I would advocate that you have to empower some of these FFLs, and you have to say, look, we have to have them at the table at the very least to speak before you pass these bills, to educate you guys on what it's going to do. Because if we do not do that, we're going to have problems.
Well, you see that, unfortunately, in many states. New York, for example, they don't have public hearings where the public can come and testify. They pass bills that haven't even been written yet. The New York SAFE Act was passed before it was written. Nobody saw it, not even the state police. They had no idea what was in it. They vote on the concept and they write the bill afterwards. That is just so un-American. It's undemocratic, but they get away with it.
And I had Rudy on, and New York, eventually we have to get to national reciprocity, and that raises the next question. So national reciprocity is the goal, and everything in politics, to everybody listening out there, it's a horse trade. It's going to come down to what the horse trade is, whether it's, 4 hours of mandatory, and to everybody out there listening, national reciprocity, means your concealed carry permit becomes like your driver's license. It's universally recognized. It's not so much the Second Amendment, the right to possess. It's more to conceal carry. Whether it's a 4-hour training course that's mandatory or whatever it is, national reciprocity ultimately is the goal. And when we had the House, we should have got it done. It should have been a priority. My belief is that if we can get that through, it's going to be a matter of how we clean up some of these local laws, like you have in the city of Boston, where you can only have 10 rounds and there's no ARs, so you got to take 128 all the way around, or like in New York, where you can't even have a gun in Manhattan. So, how you work around some of those logistics and how you create something that makes sense. But I believe in national reciprocity. I believe in that being the ultimate goal, and that has to be the way it has to go.
We got close a couple of years ago in the Senate. It failed by one or two votes. It is a priority. It's a big lift to convince folks to do that. Hearing Protection Act is the same thing. We would go into meetings on the Hill and explain things to people, Republicans, and they would say, well, I'm okay with suppressors, but not these silencer things. And it'd be like, Oh my God.
The NFA thing's a mess. I had Neil on the other day, Reddy Gunner. He's a very large FFL in Salt Lake. And, we were talking. The NFA thing's a joke. It's a cottage industry. All they have to do to fix the NFA problem is register the item at the cash register, collect the $200 tax stamp, kick it up to the feds, and you're done.
That's exactly right. That's what we proposed.
That's all that has to be done, Larry.
Yep. Because the background check that is done by the ATF on an NFA item is the exact same background check that's done at the counter through NICS. You send the card in, the fingerprint card, the form, and the photograph. They have no way of knowing whether the fingerprints are the person in the picture and that's the person that filled out the form. It's a joke. And they just run a background check like they would if you were at retail. There's no reason you couldn't set up a system where it was done at retail.
It's done at point of sale.
There's really no reason at point of sale. And frankly, there's no reason why they should be paying a $200 tax.
It's a registered item anyway. If you want to trade it off, go ahead and pay the $200 tax stamp at the register, and you're done.
But you would only do that if suppressors remained in the NFA. There's no reason they should be in the NFA. There really isn't. I mean, they are an accessory. It's not a firearm. You want to have a background check and a 4473 at retail, fine. You can remove it from the NFA, do away with the $200 tax, keep it in the Gun Control Act, and you can, it's serialized. There's a background check, all these things. There's no reason it needs to be in the only reason it's in the NFA was put in there at the request of the Fish and Game agencies back in the 1930s because they were afraid of people using suppressors to poach game during the Depression, and it never happened.
And we know they're never going to give up the $200, Larry. So I'm prepared to concede it. And, we both know that. And,
I agree with you. I'd concede it, keep it in the NFA. Just take the $200 at retail.
Just cut down the 18 months of wait time. I think everybody would be okay with that. And then anyone can challenge me. But
I don't think ATF would be upset if it wouldn't be upset if it fell out of the NFA. I mean, just have a different 4473 for a suppressor, and just like a multiple sales form, just transmit that to ATF, and they can keep a registry of them. I don't know why they need a registry of these things. They don't do it. The registry itself is a mess. A complete mess. But I would gladly horse trade keeping the $200 tax if you could just get it at retail without, waiting a year and a half or whatever it is.
Now, here's the $1 million question, Larry, because I know you're time sensitive and we could ramble on for 3 hours. Coming out of this, how do we fix this? What are some of the things you're going to be looking at and going in the office and saying, we need to fix this. We need to get this right. What are some of the initiatives you're scratching on your pad that you're like, geez, we really need to change this? What is it going to be once we break out of this?
Well, certainly on the sort of government relations side of things is making sure that we don't have to do this mad scramble again and try to make sure that you have state statutes that make it very clear, or federal law that makes it very clear that in the case of an emergency like this, the states and local jurisdictions cannot shut down the exercise of the Second Amendment by closing gun stores. It's not unlike what was done after Katrina, where laws were passed to say you can't confiscate firearms from citizens during an emergency. So we need to look at that for sure. We're going to go right back to dealing with some of the many problems we were confronting before, the corporate shaming, the banks refusing to do business with industry members, the discrimination across the board by internet providers, by credit card processes. So all of those things are still there and still have to be dealt with. We still need to try to get the national reciprocity and all those things. I would say on sort of the communication side, how can we get better about communicating with our members and industry quicker than we did? To your point, I think that's very important to have an after-action sit down and figure out what you did right, what you did wrong, and what you can do better. That's important to do. We do that internally all the time. I mean, we have a meeting after the SHOT Show where we talk about what went well, what went wrong, what can we improve upon, what do we have to adjust. Every business does that. It's important to make sure you provide the best customer service you can. And the dealers and the industry members, they're our customers at NSSF. We work for them.
I'm going in that communications room, Larry, if I'm you guys from the Gov't side, with a flamethrower. I'm going in there with a flamethrower, and because I could write up a whole template right now of what they should be doing, and they need to be acting fast. They need to be setting up a studio. They need to get into streaming. They need to start reporting some of the news. They need to start bringing some of the news of the NSSF to the people. They need to start reporting on what you're working on, because the problem is nobody gets any information and nobody understands, and they just say the website, the website. The website is very little of what people consume today. It's a very small portion. You need to be everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we are increasingly moving, away from putting it. We put it on the website, but we also push it out through emails and through social media. And we have the largest Facebook page of any trade association in the United States. So we're pushing. We're trying to be better about using social media. For sure, but you can't communicate every. Instagram is a picture. You can only communicate so much information. So, but we've not got to use modern communication tools to communicate to industry. No question about it.
Because it's all going to audio and video, and Instagram's not the best tool for video. It hasn't been. But at the end of the day, there needs to be not just a podcast, an audio component, a video component that streams all this stuff out there, because you're up against everybody else pumping information out there, and you should want to be the voice in the video of the industry. You should want to be pumped into all these FFLs, and you should want to be the person that they're listening to. You represent the FFL side, so that's where you should be.
I don't disagree, at all.
So if I'm, sitting back 6 months from now, 8 months from now, and I'm looking at the NSSF, I am looking forward to the things that you implement and the stuff that comes down and how you approach this, because I think it's going to be exciting. And I wanted to be fair on this, because I wanted you to have an opportunity to explain some of the things that you are doing behind the scenes. And I want to be clear to everybody listening. There is a lot that these organizations do that people don't see. And I'm critical at times of some of the content that they push out there, because I feel marketing in communications becomes kind of like the idiot's son in the whole equation, and doesn't get a lot of the resources or the stuff that it needs. And some of these organizations, I've said it 100 times, they're a little dusty. They don't understand the new mediums. They don't understand how to pump information. They don't understand how fast information really moves. And if you're not out there to shape the narrative or to give your take and say, well, yeah, this happened, but we're working on it, we're in front of it, then people don't know. And people don't know what to do or where to go for resources. Now, Mark pointed out some great resources you guys have on the website through the DHS, and I looked at some of them, and there's some good stuff there. I don't think there's enough press releases, but he's got some good stuff there on the Gov't side that they're working on that you can read through. But imagine if that was pumped in a YouTube channel, or that was pumped in an audio interface.
Yeah, I mean, we got to certainly look at how we can improve our, how we communicate to do it more quickly, more rapidly, and in mediums that people want to consume news now. I mean, we've certainly gone, as you know better than I do, that most people get their news on their phone. I mean, it's right there on the small screen is the first screen.
Now, have you been in contact with the NRA at all through this?
We've had some contact. I mean, we've been so busy, but we've been communicating them where on various issues and along the way for sure, and we're in contact with them on a regular basis.
It's good. It's nice to see everyone communicating, because now's the time to bring it all together. That's important. And I think it's important to start sharing information and get a round table together and everybody start to communicate and bring this all home, because we need the shows, we need the trade shows, we need the organizations, and we need to kind of, as I said in the beginning, unite the clans, Larry. And that's something that has to come together. And there's a lot of FFLs out there that they're just looking for information, and a lot of them, they're people that just, they're working hard, they're trying to make a dime, and they're going to be flush, and they need to know where to put that capital and how to adjust that capital. I had Mark Lancaster from Sports South on, and we were talking to them, and I'm going to try to get someone from Davidson's on. They need advice right now, and they need to understand how to handle their inventories and handle their min-maxes and not have this problem happen again, because these runs come, what is it, Larry, once every 5 or 10 years we see a run like this? I
mean, we see these major things, they kind of tend to come every 10 years, give or take. I mean, we haven't seen a surge like this, I don't think ever. You see it after, whenever there's a threat You typically see surges when there's a threat by the government to take your rights away. But we saw a surge like this after September 11th, which was another paradigm shift on the issue. I mean, coming out of the late 1990s and the attacks by the Clinton administration to take away gun rights, to city lawsuits against the industry that were going on at that time. And then after September 11th, people really had a wake-up moment where they kind of put things in perspective and prioritize, and all of a sudden the right to defend yourself and your family became very crystal clear to people. And we're seeing that, I believe, now with this situation with the coronavirus, that people are realizing can't rely upon the police. I've got to protect myself, my family, my neighbors, my business, my property, in the event of civil unrest, which we hope never happens. Let me be very clear about that. But, you'd be foolish to think it's not within the realm of possibility. We saw things like that in Katrina. We saw the LA riots back in the 90s, where, we've seen, riots in other cities in the past, in Newark, for example, in Detroit. So it can happen. We hope it never happens, but people want to be able to protect themselves.
I told everybody, Larry, LA, they say, should I worry? And I say, LA is the first to fall. They make a living out of rioting, and they figure, they kind of get it all figured out there. So I said, as long as you're not in LA, you're all right. I say, if you can, LA is the first. I mean, we laugh, but they've literally made a career out of rioting in LA. So I always say, wait for LA to fall, and then New York will be next. But they make a career out of looting and rioting. But I tell people, go ahead.
I was going to say, who knows what could happen, right? If this goes on and there becomes food shortages and people, you hope it never happens, but that's the point, right? You want to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. But, if it hits the fan, it's too late to go to a gun store to try to buy a firearm to protect your family. Yeah, and that's not fear mongering like the other side says. That's just, being prepared to protect yourself.
Yeah, it's not fear-mongering. I think, in getting, I don't want to go down the wormhole of getting into marketing tactics. I think the fear-mongering, I think everybody got tired of the NRA using the fear-mongering thing. Like, if I get another letter that says you need to act now, I'm going to vomit. I think now it needs to shift to educating and adding value. And I think if you educate and add value, I think the money's going to come in, because that's what people are looking for right now. They're looking for education and value, because the worst thing that can happen, and I know a lot of FFL owners are worried about this, is people coming back in to consign firearms and sell them and everything else in between. Yep. So I told one guy, I said, look, what you have to put in place is that for 90 days you can't consign the gun. It's just got to be a store policy. At the end of the day, I said, that's a policy you got to put in place. And he goes, that's a good idea. I said, yeah, you have to. Given the circumstances, you can't just accept every piece that comes in. But at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to information. And if you provide the information, like I think, I'll be critical of it, Larry. I don't think you'll comment on it, but I think the NRA is missing a golden opportunity. I would have a tab up there right now that says sign up, be a free member now. I would offer the RSO course for free. You have a portal already that offers education. Offer it for free. Right now, people are sitting in their homes. Instead, you get a letter from Wayne again that says, hey, a letter from Wayne, and stand up for freedom. And no, listen, you gotta get away from that. Wayne, I love you, but nobody cares about, your bullshit letter. Nobody cares. Sorry, I'm going to say it, Larry. You won't. Put some up there that says free RSO course now. Sign up for an NRA membership. How about that?
There's a lot of new gun owners out there, and hopefully people will reach them and engage them. I think it's very important for retailers to be proactive about reaching out to all these new customers. I mean, they've got their name, they've got their address. It's right there in the 4473. Send them birthday cards, invite them to, give them discounts, and, work with a nearby range and get them in there, and all of those opportunities. Sign them up for NRA membership.
Yeah, now's not the time to be offering a free bag and a free hat. Now's the time to be pumping out there, so you can go back to Congress, people like you can go back to these elected officials and say, yes, we had 6 million people go through the NICS, but you know what? 2 million of them signed up for NRA memberships, and 1 million of them took an RSO course or a pistol course we offered online. Isn't that amazing? These people are actively seeking education.
And they should. And we've been hitting that message hard. People need to. If you're a first-time gun owner, you need to be a safe and responsible owner. You got to make sure you don't leave the gun laying around loaded with kids in the house and all those sorts of things. Just be responsible. Because we want to see accidents continue to decline. Yeah. In the middle of this gun surge, the report comes out from National Safety Council. Accidents are at their lowest level since record keeping began in 1903. Right? And crime continues to go down. And you mark my words, you will see a steep decline during this crisis in crime. Steep decline. And you will see that for a while. Because now you have all these new gun owners who can protect themselves.
I agree with that, but we have to sales is simple. You have to show value to get the dollars out of people's pockets, or you have to show resources. So, to me, I don't want to stare. I'm on the NRA website right now. I'm looking at Wayne LaPierre speaks at CPAC. Okay, that was a month ago. I'm looking at, as I scroll through, I'm looking at NRA annual meeting cancellation. Great. Nobody cares. We know about that. COVID-19 threat to Second Amendment. It's an article. Now, I'm going to be critical, and I know it's not your side of the house, Larry, but I'm going to say it. Where's the information? Where's the sign up? Where's the proactiveness? Don't come around me asking for money when you have the perfect opportunity right now. Right now. And you guys are doing a better job. I want to be clear about that. You're doing a great job over in the NSSF side. I'm just, as a leader in the industry, you just have to be ready to go in that office with a flamethrower and pick up the phone and say, hey, we need you guys on the other side too. What are you doing? Are you just sitting around saying, making faces? Or, you're going to put something out there that people can grab onto? Because I'm telling you, I'm not the only one saying it. You know what it's going to be? It's going to be a fear message. Be afraid. Be afraid. We've never been more armed than we are now. Be afraid of what? I got thousands of. Be afraid of what?
Yeah, I mean, you won't see. We don't. We represent the industry, so we're not out there pushing those. Those sorts of messages. We want. Want people to own firearms safely and responsibly for lawful purposes, which include self-defense, for hunting, for target shooting, and all these purposes. So, yeah, it's important to get the word out to folks.
So, listen, Larry, I love you for what you're doing. Genuinely. I think you're doing good work.
Appreciate it.
I do. I genuinely
Appreciate
do.
it.
And I know I'm harsh about this, but it's important to have the tough conversations. And I think for a long time in our business, that's been lacking. I genuinely believe that. I think it's been lacking. I think these types of conversations need to happen because then people can hear about what you're doing. And I think you're doing good work behind the scenes. But I think it needs to come to the forefront now. And I think a lot of the comms directors, everybody in your building, they need to understand, hey, putting the tough information out there is what needs to be done. And it needs to be done now. And we need to start to educate we need to become the leader. And if we're going to market ourselves as the leaders in the industry, and we're going to market ourselves as a trade association leader, we need to start to give resources. Otherwise, we can't be expected to go to the trough and ask for thousands of dollars if we're not showing them what we're doing. And it's that simple. And, to whoever's writing the press releases, 1 or 2 a week or 3 a week, it's not enough. You got to write more. You got to put more out there. You got to get more out there in video. That's my opinion. I'll stick to it. But I think you and Mark are doing good work. I think on the Gov't side, you guys are pushing the issue, and I'd love to see more information come out, and I thank you for that.
Well, thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk with you.
Awesome. Anytime. My platform's yours, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to see, on the government side, just how the work's playing out, because I'll have Matt Gaetz on tomorrow, and I'll have some of the guys on from Congress. So I'm looking forward to see what they say. But
Right.
I appreciate it. I'm going to get this out to some of the FFL owners. Let everybody know where you can find the NSSF and how you can help.
NSSF.org, and you can go to the membership tab and sign up and become a member right online. It's very simple.
Yeah, it's really easy, guys, if you navigate there. I know Mark and the guys and Larry have done a good job putting a lot of the stuff right at the front page, giving people resources. And to everybody out there, the NSSF does offer tremendous lists, tremendous resources and classes. I don't want to get into the classes at SHOT Show because, Larry, I could spend an hour, but that's a media problem. I don't want to go there. If I see another Facebook class, I'm going to lose my mind. But I don't want to go there. But to the NSSF side, guys, they do offer a lot of different stuff. If you go on there, not only that, their store, there are some good resources that I've used in the past that I've reflected back on and some data that they gather that's truly important. And if you check it out, they do offer a lot of free stuff too. One of the things they offer that they've been proactive on in the past is different booklets and different stuff. If you head there, there's a lot of different free stuff on suicide prevention, on different topics that are, near and dear to a lot of people's hearts and a lot of FFL's hearts. So go ahead and head in there and print some of those out and go check out some of those resources. Not everything has a cost to it. Some of it's free. So go and check some of it out and go troll around the website, and I'll put that link down below for you guys, Larry. And listen, keep fighting the good fight.
No, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and get fired up about it. I like to hear that, Larry. It's awesome. It's good to hear. You get some.
Thanks, buddy.
You get some lead in the pencil still fighting. I like that. So. I'll be in touch, and I look forward to doing this again, and I'm going to get this pushed out there, and hopefully you guys will share it.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
I'll see you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.